Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Holy moly. Do I have so much information?
Yeah, this is going to be a 5-hour show, right? Because just to get through everything.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to get through it all. We're going to try another weekend with massive historic breaking news happening, and the country and the world are all reacting to it. That was the voice of Susie Moore from Red State, who is my co-host today. Thank you so much for being here. And
Wouldn't miss it.
2 weeks in a row.
I know.
Maybe it's you. Maybe you bring this.
I tweeted this yesterday. Just as you can be assured that breaking news during the week will happen at 11:05, just after Vic Porcelli gets off the air. On the weekend, you can be assured that it's going to be right when I'm getting to the pool.
Oh, there you go. Did it happen again?
It happened again.
Because that is what happened.
Yes, it did.
Wow. Yeah. You stop going to the pool. Every time you go to the pool,
my summer happy place.
Susie will be with me all day today and all day tomorrow, which is a tremendous help. We also have Virginia Cruda from the Daily Wire joining the conversation here in about 10 minutes. America's favorite liberal. Can't wait to talk to Keith Antone and get a Democrat's perspective on the president dropping out of this race.
That's important.
Wait to hear what Keith Antone thinks about that. And then also at 3:05, as we do every Monday, we are going to talk AI and tech and and some of that impact on this story and so many more things with our buddy Mike McCleary from Intervine. So lots to get into. I don't even know where to start. Let's just start with you. Did you expect this on Friday? Because I will say this. I will always admit when I am wrong. And I really, honestly, even on Friday, was still had the opinion of I'll believe it when I see it. Mm-hmm. Just because I just know how stubborn the Bidens are, and maybe there has been a bigger health development that it was unavoidable. Maybe but I was still skeptical even on Friday afternoon that this would actually happen. So I was wrong. Did you expect this?
I did. Yeah. I can't say I expected it right at the moment that they announced it. I was in the middle of actually moving a dresser at that point before I got to the pool. And my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, yes, I know. The number of people that text me to say, did you see? I'm like, do you know me? But no, I did expect it, and I expected it sooner rather than later. And I will tell you why. Now, I mean, I've for 2 years plus thought that he would not end up ultimately being the nominee. I was a little surprised that he decided to run. But in terms of like it being, we're down to the nitty gritty with it. The day that tipped me off was when Nancy Pelosi sent up the bat signal, which was about 2.5 weeks ago. She opened the door to it when she said, well, I think there are legitimate questions. And as soon as she said that, because that was a change in her tenor and her approach to it, and Nancy Pelosi, say what you want about her, that woman still wields a ton of power in the Democratic Party.
It's funny you say that. I just was talking to Stel Pontica, Stel Baby from Mike Ferguson in the morning. I wrote this down. I was gonna bring this up later, but you just touched on it. I wrote this down. I was proud of myself. I was like, "Oh, that's a good poll," and I'm thinking about putting it on Twitter. I wanted to ask you, who is the most, in your opinion, who is the most powerful woman in the Democratic Party?
Nancy Pelosi.
A, B, C, D.
Hands down.
Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, or Michelle Obama?
Kamala's the least powerful.
Is it? Should we post that? Should we post that as a poll?
Sure.
See what people think?
Sure.
All right. I will do that at the break. And we'll get people's thoughts on that. But you are now the second person. And well, now there's 100,000 or so people that have heard my poll idea, but you're the second person.
Don't steal it.
That replied to me about it, and your answer, your very quick, decisive Nancy Pelosi was the same response from Stel.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him the same thing, and because he was popped by my office right as I was writing, I was like, "Hey, listen to this. I'm thinking about posting this." And he immediately, and like you, he didn't even wait for the multiple choice. He just immediately said Nancy Pelosi.
Mhm.
So I think that's interesting because I think that even you know even people that listen to the station regularly, I think there are a lot of people out there that aren't paying attention to what's going on behind the scenes every day in Washington D.C.
Mhm.
that would think that Nancy's influence has diminished since stepping out of the speaker's office, but that's not the case.
No. No, because the power we're talking about doesn't have to do with the speakership, it has to do with the money, and it has to do with
Mhm.
who owes who favors. Think about the
Mhm.
California contingent. Nancy Pelosi is pretty much responsible for the success of every California national politician that you know of. Gavin Newsom owes his success to her. Kamala Harris owes her success to her. Everybody that you can name out of California, Ro Khanna, Adam Schiff, all of those
Mhm.
people, they
Mhm.
owe their success to her.
And California is so vital
It is.
to everything about the Democratic Party because
Absolutely.
it's
That's where
such a
the
huge
big
state.
money is.
Yeah.
That's where the power seat is.
Lots of
Yeah.
lots of congressional seats are in California.
Mhm.
Lots of money, lots of electoral college votes. Like just California is the crown jewel of the Democratic Party.
It is.
And she has always it's since I've started paying attention to politics, I've always heard that about Nancy Pelosi that her gift, her power, where it all comes from is what you just said, her ability to raise money. That
Mhm.
she has raised so much money for so many Democrats, for the party in general. Why is that, do you think? Because she is the most unlikable human being. Like, I know why people wanna give money to Donald Trump. You get wrapped up in the and I know why people wanted to give money to Barack Obama.
Mhm.
They're charismatic. You wanna be on that team. You
Right.
wanna be a part of that movement. What is it about Nancy Pelosi? I get why she can get I understand why she can strong arm members of the party, but how does she appeal to voters? How does she raise money from business interests and rank and file voters?
Knowing where the bodies are buried. So people, people that are kind of interested in politics but don't necessarily like dig into it deeply may not recognize this, but there are multiple layers of power structures in the political realm. And there's what you see front and center, what's in front of the cameras, what's presented to you on the news on a daily basis on social media. But there's what's going on behind the scenes in the smoke-filled rooms,
Mhm,
the
mhm,
cliche. And Nancy's been a part of the political machine since
mm,
she was a kid. Her dad was a politician. I think he was the mayor of Baltimore. She grew up in the political machine,
mhm,
and she knows the ins and outs of it. And so she very shrewdly amassed a lot of power for herself of the behind the scenes variety
yeah,
before she became visibly
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
And the bottom line is this: politics comes down to who you owe and who you're scared of.
mhm,
That's what ends up making the decisions for most of the people that we see talking to the cameras.
it's so true.
She's got the knowledge, she's got
Mhm.
the money, she's the one with the power,
What a life
and
she
she's
has
got fancy ice cream in her
that
fridge.
she has lived. Like, Nancy Pelosi has no idea. Like you said, she grew up even before she was in politics. She was in the political world,
Mhm.
which is not the real world.
No, it's
She
its
has
own world, yeah.
she has never there's probably not a person on earth who has less connection to just being a human being than Nancy Pelosi. There's just no way that she could possibly understand like the struggles, the life of a normal person who gets a normal job. I mean, she's just
I think that's
never
true of all
had to be around. I
career
totally agree,
politicians.
but I
Yeah.
think that she's like
She might be the cream of the
I
crop,
think
right,
she's
yeah.
like the ultimate example of that.
Yeah.
I think Joe Biden is
Very
another
much so.
great example of that.
Very
Just
much
so
so.
out of touch
Mhm.
with with real life experiences
Mhm.
because you've just never had them.
Right.
You've never had them.
Right. And you haven't needed them to be successful, so why bother?
I thought this report was fascinating. Um, Not too long after the announcement was made yesterday, there were reports that Biden campaign staffers were still working 30 minutes. They were still on the phone with delegates, urging them to publicly support Joe Biden. He's not going anywhere. They were still trying to raise money with donors 30 minutes before the announcement was made. I we are all unfortunately used to being lied to. I knew on Friday that my gut feeling of I'll believe it when I see it was not because of what Joe Biden was saying, because I know that they are all capable of saying one thing one day and then doing the
Mhm.
exact opposite. We've seen it many times. But why over the weekend? Why have your campaign pressing like that? And why I know they do it, but why being so dug in on Friday and, late last week, why not just kinda go quiet for a couple days when you know that's gonna happen? I don't see any benefit whatsoever to be lying to the American people 48 hours before a big announcement like that. Just don't say anything.
Well, in some respects, he did go quiet because of the COVID diagnosis, and he's been in Rehoboth Beach. But
But
my
his campaign
correct.
staff and
Because up
directors and
until
everything were
right before
saying
he made the decision, he was defiant and saying, he want I mean, that's his ego. And they all have
Mhm,
egos. I'm not saying that's, specific to Joe Biden, but he wanted to be in it. He wanted to fight. So it wasn't until like basically the last like reality check was given to him that he finally came to terms with that he made the decision. And if you read that, there's a Politico article that came out last night that kind of does a detailed backgrounder on how like the timeline of events that led up to the
mhm,
final decision, if it is to be believed, if it is accurate. It was basically the last internal polling that came in late, maybe Friday, and 2 of the guys that he trusts most that came to him with him, one of them, I think, at the behest of Nancy, and said,
mm.
"Look,
And we know that
you're
the
not
money
going to win."
we know that
Well,
donors were
right,
withholding
but that
too.
wasn't budging him.
Yeah,
It was
because that's
the
been going on for a couple
right, it
weeks.
was the internal polling, and basically, the story is, if it is to be believed, he was basically given an ultimatum. You can do this the hard way or the easy way, or you can do this
Mhm,
hard way.
mhm,
If you don't do it the easy way, Monday, look out.
mhm,
And so I think he finally realized that, checkmate, he
mhm.
didn't really have any other options. And
Does your what's your gut tell you about that report? Does it sound accurate to you? Do you believe that
yeah,
does
I
that
mean, the time everything lines up chronologically and with given the players that we know were involved, yes, that
Mm.
all does line up. Now, again, I'll never know for sure, but that seems consistent with what my understanding is of things.
I think you said this last week, and I'm gonna repeat it. Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall?
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
I would give anything to have been in the room when that decision when Joe Biden
Yeah,
tells whoever he tells, his chief of staff or
right.
whoever it is, that this is what we're doing.
Yeah, because
Oh my
it sounds
god.
like he basically just told the 3 people closest, and then they
He
had
didn't
to
tell the
get the letter.
campaign.
No, no, no,
They
that
were
was most
still
of them were
working.
finding out when he posted the letter on X.
He made fools of those people. And I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I'm overdoing it, but I mean, that's just
That's the danger of following in a politician's wake.
yeah, that just how stupid do you feel and look if you literally just hung up the phone with somebody who you're in Washington, D.C., you're trying to build a career for yourself in politics, and you know all these people, and you're on the phone with some delegate, from the state of Texas, and you're trying to get him to publicly commit to to Joe Biden. His chief of staff there, or one of the campaign director on Friday, literally said there is no scenario going forward that's been discussed that doesn't include Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. Like that was what they were saying on Friday
Uh-huh.
afternoon.
Well,
They just look like idiots.
people's memories are short, so the
Yeah,
bottom line is the people that, maybe look like idiots right this second, that'll be forgiven, before we know it.
yeah. That is Susie Moore from Red State. She is my co-host today, and we are going to get Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire into the conversation. The big question is this good or bad for Donald Trump?
Yes.
So I want to ask Susie and Virginia that question and get everybody's thoughts on that and much more as we go through a busy Monday afternoon here on Colombo and Company on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
And then the media.
1019 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
St. Charles County is a great county and community.
Joe Brazel supports smart growth.
In recent years, there has been an explosion of growth, an increase of apartment buildings by 180%. Explosive growth is not good for our citizens. It causes major strains on our resources. Having a rural area in our county and preserving our heritage is very important by not wiping out every tree and contaminating our water.
Joe Brazel, a true patriot working for you.
I'm Joe Brazel, running for St. Charles County Council, District 2, vote August 6th.
Paid for by citizens for Joe Brazel. Mike Summers, Treasurer.
Tim Jones here for Johnny's Hideout in beautiful High Ridge, the go-to St. Louis sports bar and grill experience featuring over 40 big screen TVs, fantastic food featuring daily specials, and of course the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings, live local music, and now the reopening of the gorgeous Sunset Patio, Sunset Stage, and Train Station Bar. Johnny's Hideout, located a mere 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois off Highway 30, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. More information, jhideout.com. That's jhideout.com. Johnny's Hideout. I'll see you there.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
What new chaos and crises did Joe Biden start over the weekend? We'll discuss at 4:25 with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. Red State Headlines at 5:25 with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Uncle has a country place no one knows about. He says it used to be a farm before the motor law. And on Sundays I eat the ice.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Susan Moore from Red State is in studio with me today, and we are going to have Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire on the line with us in just a moment. Perfect time to remind you to make sure you're subscribed to our podcast. It's still listed as Colombo and Katie on the podcast platforms. We'll have that changed over very, very soon. But of course, we put this show out as a podcast every day right after we get off the air on every podcast platform, and especially on a day like this, to make sure you never miss anything that happens here on the show. Make sure you are subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast, soon to be the Colombo and Company podcast. And you'll never miss anything. All right. We have Virginia on the line with us. Virginia, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Virginia's with us every Monday as well. Susie and I were just started the show talking about 2 Mondays in a row with about as big historic news days as you could possibly have. Before we get, I have questions for both of you, but before we get into it, I was just going to ask you the same thing that I asked Susie. Were you expecting this coming into the weekend, and just what was your initial thoughts and reaction when Joe Biden made the announcement that he is stepping out of the race?
Well, we did have some kind of foreshadowing. And if you look at, I think the big question that was answered this week, if you weren't paying attention before to how powerful the media is in all of this, consider that Joe Biden was criticized by media, and I mean really criticized by media, for the first time like 3 weeks ago. And now he's not even running for president anymore.
Right. The media's cover went away, and look what happens. Look how quickly his reputation was gone. That's a great point.
And I don't know if you saw this. We've got a report up on it at the Daily Wire, but Adam Schiff kind of gave away the game today. He was, because I know one of the big questions that's been circulating since Joe Biden's letter came out, not just where is Joe Biden, because people are asking that too, but they're also noting that in the letter, he does not say why he stepped out of the campaign. There is no reason there given. And people are asking, well, it's one of three things. It's either his cognitive decline, which is obvious if you're watching him, his physical health, which there may be something we don't know about yet. It may just be that COVID has taken a toll on him. After my last bout with COVID, I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm saying here, or the third possibility is that it was entirely based on polls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's one of the first two, you absolutely cannot justify him remaining in the presidency if he's resigning the campaign for one of those two reasons.
Yes.
And if it's the third reason, then the Democratic Party should renounce its name because it is no longer the party of democracy. Because they're saying to 14 million primary voters, your votes don't matter.
Right.
We don't think we can win with the guy that you picked. So screw you.
You're so right.
So what Adam Schiff said, and it was Savannah Guthrie, God bless her, who asked the question. She's like, wait a minute. You were willing to come out and say that you didn't believe he was competent to finish the presidential race and he shouldn't run.
Mm-hmm.
How can you justify saying that he can continue to serve as president?
It's such a great point. And like you said, and I held up a piece of paper to the camera if people are watching on the stream, and I showed Susie as well. You just said it a moment ago, and it was one of my stories that I wrote down today, where it starts with, my notes start with, where is Joe, and 4 question marks after it. What is the delay in your opinion, Virginia? Why have we not heard Joe Biden speak to the country and tell us the reasons why he has made this decision? I feel like that is something that should have happened in the first 24 hours of this type of an announcement.
Well, I don't disagree. Let me really quick back check, because what Adam Schiff said in response to that question is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I wasn't sure that he would be able to beat Donald Trump, is basically what he said. So he answered the question, like, why is it okay to, so they're essentially pushing him out of the campaign because they're afraid he can't win. So the answer to the question is primary voters don't matter. If you're following along, but as far as where's Joe Biden, I'm really hesitant to go after this one, because there are competing narratives here from the right, because, and the reality is nobody knows. So we can't say with any definitive proof that either of these is correct. But the two competing narratives are, A, Joe Biden can't be on camera because it wasn't his decision to quit the race. And he is so angry he can't be trusted to fall in line with what he's supposed to.
I'd believe that.
That would be number one. Number two, he's over 80 years old. This is not his first time around with COVID, and maybe it's bad enough that he can't be on camera.
Yeah, I believe that as
and
well.
I'm not. And either one, they're equally believable. They're equally plausible. I mean, if Joe Biden is really sick, I don't want him forced to be on camera.
Right. I agree. But then they should tell us that, because the doctor came out, the White House doctor put out another report today. He's been doing this every day since Joe Biden's was diagnosed with COVID.
Right.
And he says, he's the mild symptoms. He's taking his, whatever the medicine is. Paxlovid. Yep.
Well, and here's my question, not to go all conspiracy theory on you, but if this administration, if something's really, really, really wrong with Joe Biden, and I'm not saying I want this to be the case, I hope he's fine.
Right.
Really. I hope he's fine, and I hope he's pissed. because I feel like the Democrat.
I
Like,
guarantee you
that
he's
is the
pissed.
thing that's true. No. I mean, I hope that that's the true answer to the question.
Right.
Is that he's hiding because he's mad and they can't let him talk. But if this administration were going to pull a Dave on us, what would they be doing differently?
Right.
That's so true.
And I mean, for those of you who don't get the reference, Dave is the movie, the Kevin Kline movie where the president's dead and they're searching for a body double. Or or he's not dead. He's had a stroke and
he's like in a coma.
In a coma, and they're looking for a body double to that they can put out and say, well, he's fine. Look, guys, don't worry.
Yeah.
So,
if that was going to happen in real life, this would be the scenario. We would be living that scenario publicly right now. Susie, I want to get your thoughts on this. Lauren Boebert put out a tweet today saying, I demand proof of life from Joe Biden by 5 p.m. today. He needs to get in front of some camera and discuss if he's even aware that he dropped out of the race. Hiding is completely unacceptable. What do you think's going on with Joe?
My instinct is that, okay. I mean, I've got competing instincts, but the strongest one, I guess, is that he really, COVID did a number on him and he's really weak right now and doesn't look well. And they don't want to put him in front of the camera when he looks as haggard and weak as he probably is feeling. So they figured they bought a few days with the COVID diagnosis and they can probably stretch it out for another day or two. That's my first go-to, the least conspiratorial interpretation of things. And that makes sense. You don't want to see your president looking like, death warmed over. You just don't.
Yeah. Then
and
just
he
say
was already
that.
perilously close
just
to that.
Say
anyway.
that. He's recovering from COVID and he will be speaking to the nation as soon as, tomorrow or Wednesday, whatever it is.
I think the fact that Jill and Hunter both issued statements late yesterday, basically about his dropping out of the race, confirms to me that, we're not doing the Dave thing. I mean, unless they're in on it and they finally bought them. But I mean, that's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, like those are the two closest to him and they both kind of acknowledged, this is decision, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's the sickness thing, but who knows?
So Virginia, the big question is this good or bad for Donald Trump? Let's assume that it's Kamala Harris. That seems to be what every major Democrat is. That's the person they're all endorsing. In the long run, as far as the election is concerned, is Joe leaving the race? Does that make things easier or more difficult for Donald Trump to win the White House back?
It's a toss-up. It depends on how good a job they do of tying Kamala Harris to Biden's policies, which they were already doing, in fairness. I mean, the Trump campaign was already on top of that. And the ad that they released going after Kamala, like within hours of Biden dropping out, suggests that they were ready for this. So I think that they were kind of prepared for this to happen. I think we were all prepared for this to happen. But the major wild card is going to be whether or not Democrats coalesce or react poorly to the fact that their primary votes have been thrown out the window. Because if you look at the money and the names that are coalescing around Kamala Harris right now, it seems pretty apparent that by design, it will be almost impossible for even the wildest brokered convention to get rid of her.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're
Nancy
talking
Pelosi,
about a
Hillary
candidate.
Clinton. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Pritzker, Gavin Newsom. I mean, Joe Biden himself. I mean, it's just like every major Democrat has come out and endorsed her.
Kamala Harris is so unpopular with her own party. Then we've talked about this before, that she didn't even make it through December.
Right. She didn't even make it to 2020. She didn't even make it to election year. She was already out of the race.
Right. And you've got people like Tulsi Gabbard is the clip of her absolutely destroying Harris in a debate is going everywhere. People are circulating the modern day lynching tweet she put up about Jussie Smollett when he first told that ridiculous story, and it's still up. That's the thing. It was never deleted.
Wow.
Like,
Wow. I didn't know
Like,
that.
how do you? No, it's still up. That one is, and so is the tweet inviting people to help fund bail for rioters in Minneapolis. All of these things are still up. And now, you know that most of the media will not ask her any of these questions, but somebody needs to ask her these questions.
Talking to Virginia Kruder from the Daily Wire, also Susie Moore from Red State in studio with me today. Susie, what do you think? Good or bad for Donald Trump? More difficult to beat Kamala Harris than Joe Biden?
I think it's actually going to be tougher.
Yeah.
Because I think now that the Democrats have started, I mean, you've seen it in the past 24 hours. They're all coalescing around her. As much as they were skeptical, and I mean, I've had Democrats say straight to my face they do not care for Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But if she's the choice, if it's her versus the bad orange man that they can't stand, they're going to vote for her. They just didn't want her to be the choice.
Right.
So as much as we're seeing them coalesce around her, I think that they're going to be unified. I don't think they're going to have a chaotic convention the way we were kind of thinking that they might. And that helps them. And here's the other thing. For the argument about democracy being subverted because that's not who the voters voted for. Well, they did. They voted for the Biden-Harris ticket because she was his VP. I mean, they didn't maybe specifically vote for Kamala, but they knew she was along for the ride. So that argument is muted as well. So I think she's going to be difficult in the sense of you've got to pivot and argue against her in a different way than you argue against Joe Biden.
Virginia, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you before we lost you. I mentioned J.B. Pritzker a moment ago, your governor. He is on the list. If this list is to be believed, I'll get into all the names a little bit later. There was a list of 10 Democrats that are most likely to be Kamala Harris's vice. The Veep stakes are back, baby. Mm-hmm. We're talking about vice president again. And Governor Pritzker, the Illinois governor, is on that list. Is this going to be a moment for not only an ascension of Kamala Harris, but for some other Democrats that have been sort of waiting their turn, like, of course, the Gavin Newsom, but also J.B. Pritzker? Do you see him playing a more a larger role in the leadership of the party as part of this? We lose Virginia? Oh man, she lives in Illinois.
I know.
Well, we'll get those thoughts. That is, we'll figure that out. And big thank you, as always, to Virginia Kruder from the Daily Wire for all of her help. Check out all of her stories at thedailywire.com. All right, speaking of Democrats, we are going to get one on the line with us. America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone, joins us next on Colombo Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
"Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL."
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
If you are looking for a new vehicle, Weber Chevrolet is the place to go and has been the place to go for over 120 years for St. Louis families. That number blows my mind every time I think about it. The fact that Weber Chevrolet has been serving the St. Louis community for over 120 years really shows you how much they have taken care of their customers for generations. You don't stick around in the same community for that long if you are not doing right by your customers. Weber Chevrolet is the #1 rated Chevy dealership in the Midwest. And, it's their goal of providing excellent service. I think that is, for me, it's what sets them apart from the rest. Of course, Weber Chevrolet is going to give you the best price on a new vehicle. They're going to give you the best deal on your trade-in. But for me, and I think so many others, what sets them apart is their service department and the way they take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you own it. And that is why so many St. Louis families generation after generation continue to trust Weber Chevrolet. 3 locations, 3 dealerships in the area to serve you: Creve Coeur in Missouri, Columbia and Granite City in Illinois. Learn about everything happening at every Weber dealership at weberchevrolet.com.
If the time has come to sell the house, you know, you're empty nesters now, the kids are gone. Why do we need all these bedrooms? Yeah, selling the house may be a good idea. A better idea when you want to sell your house is to go to the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. That's our great friends, Rodney and Jen Wallner, who are so good at this, they sell 15 times more homes than your average realtor. So let them help you sell your house. Just go to Rodney and Jen Wallner. Right, Mike Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Vic. As a matter of fact, the first time I talked to Rodney and Jen about this cabin project that my wife and I have, they looked at all the factors and said, if I were you, I'd wait. When was the last time you heard somebody in real estate say, wait, don't buy something right now? Well, he knew the market conditions were going to change, and they did to our favor, but that shows how good they are at this and how honest and ethical Rodney and Jen Wallner are. That's why I won't work with anybody else. You shouldn't either. Give them a call today, 314-810-SOLD.
Liberal mega donors are always looking for new rhinos to do their bidding. And with Adam Schnelting, they found their new star. Adam Schnelting has already backed their radical plan to defund our police. And he skipped countless important conservative votes. Skipped a vote to protect kids from sexually explicit materials in school. And skipped a vote to protect churches from junk lawsuits. It's no wonder Adam Schnelting is bankrolled by Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's top funders. Bill Cristofanelli is the only leader we can trust to protect our conservative priorities. When radicals tried to defund the police, Bill Cristofanelli passed record funding from Missouri's law enforcement. When Joe Biden left our southern border wide open, conservative Bill Cristofanelli banned sanctuary cities and voted to send Missouri National Guard troops to secure the border. Vote Bill Cristofanelli, the proven conservative, for state senate.
Gladius PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Gladius PAC, and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Limousine with your fine Park Avenue clothes. You have the Dom Perignon in your hand.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company here on 101.9 News Talk STL. Susie Moore from Red State is my co-host today, and joining us on the line, we needed to get a Democrat's perspective on this situation, and when I need to talk to a Democrat, I go to America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone, back on the show with us. Keith, another just crazy weekend, another historic, quite frankly, weekend, and we are all sort of taking it in. How are you? What was your initial reaction? Were you surprised, and how have you to this point, how are you feeling about the president's announcement to step out of the election?
Well, first of all, thank you, Tony, and hello to your guests in the studio today. I was shocked. I think this is a year too late. I think it was awful damn selfish of him to wait this late to see if he's going to die or not. I mean, that was just selfish as hell. I think that, you know, he put the party in a bad position. But I tell you what I've heard, that Kamala has raised some astronomical amount of money since announcing that she was going to run. I personally, I don't see her path to victory. There's a lot of moving parts in running campaigns, and you know I've been a part of several mayoral campaigns, and aldermanic campaigns, senator campaigns, congressional campaigns, and there's a lot of moving pieces and things that you have to put in place. But the astronomical amount of money that she's been able to raise in the last 40 hours is breaking records. And so, you know, the reality is, I think she's going to make a good showing, but I think Donald is so far out there. I mean, he was going to give Joe a run for the money, and now you switch horses in the middle of the race. He's already got a 2-day lead on you, and this horse, as fast as she may be, I think it's too much ground that you got to make up at this point.
So first, so two things to that. I've seen all those reports about how much money Kamala Harris has brought in. I wonder, and I don't know, but I'm just speculating. We know that literally hundreds of millions. There was one report of one PAC that was holding back 90 million. That's just one PAC. We know that Democratic donors, some big name donors, had been holding back donations because they were trying to pressure Joe Biden to step down. So I wonder if that's all money that was actually raised by Kamala Harris or a reaction specifically to Kamala Harris, or if all of that money was being held by these donors until Joe Biden stepped down, and then he stepped down, and then it sort of opened the floodgates. We'll see.
I will be interested to see that as well. But I also heard, that at one time, I've never heard of this many. She's a member of the sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha, and they had 40,000 women on the call on Saturday.
Wow.
Sunday. They put out a call. The national president of the AKAs, that's what they're short known for, African American sorority, and they mobilized 40,000 women, man.
Wow.
I mean, this thing is crazy.
That's impressive.
It really is. And so I think what you're going to get, I think she's going to get for sure, the African American woman vote. She'll get African American votes, but I think that she'll get the liberal white women and some white men vote. But is it enough? That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not going to sit here, and I've told you before, even last week when I said old Joe was moving slow, and then I didn't see anybody else that could give Donald a run for the race, even though he'd be running a little slow or in a wheelchair. The reality is that now this is who we've got. I think if she picks a sharp white male VP candidate, I think they can make some noise, and this might not be the time. They might not win this time, but here's what you can do. You can make some noise on the national level so that she's still younger. I think she's like 20, 30 years younger than either one of them. She's still young enough that she can run again in 4 years and possibly win, depending on who the Republicans put up against her.
So, Keith, you touched on your experience, and that is exactly why I wanted to talk to you today, because you have a history of working on campaigns, and you know what it takes, and you know all the work that goes into winning an election and running for an office. From a strategic standpoint, from somebody who's working to put all those pieces together. And we talked about it last week or a week and a half ago, whenever you were on with us last, and I agreed with you, and I agreed with you up until Friday afternoon. I was still saying I'll believe it when I see it. All these reports of Joe Biden stepping down. I wanted you to sort of illustrate for people just how difficult it is to try to put together. Now, she is the vice president. She was already on the ticket. Susie pointed that out earlier. People were voting for Biden Harris. So it's not like she's starting completely from scratch, but we're talking about president of the United States. And as you mentioned at the top, waiting this long to finally get a new campaign going just behind the scenes. How difficult is that to get that up and running fast enough to do what you need to do to get your message out to win an election in November?
Well, Tony, it is very difficult, and I can talk intelligently about it because I've been there several times, and I know what it takes on just a local and a state level, not alone a national level, where, first of all, she's not going to get the opportunity to debate Trump. He'd be a damn fool to. I mean, she's a former prosecuting attorney. And he didn't have to. See, now he knew he could take old Joe to the killing floor, but he knows damn well he can't get in there and spar with this woman. She is sharp as a tack now. She's a sharp cookie. So he doesn't have to debate her. So she doesn't get
agree to disagree.
Okay. I'm just saying my opinion here.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't have to debate her. Okay. And he won't debate her because there's what's the advantage? Why should I? So he didn't want to give her that platform because he's such a narcissist that he doesn't want to share that kind of platform with her because he knows everybody's there for just the Don and he didn't want to share any of his life. So they don't have to, he won't debate her. You have to talk about when you put together these campaigns, rallies, whether they're going to be, you've got now, I mean, we're done. We're a week away from August. So you got August.
It's right around the corner.
You've got 3 months to try to, these guys have been out on the campaign trail, Tony, a year and a half. So let's don't think that she's going to walk on water. She's got to be strategic in what she does. She's missed some of the big national African-American conferences like the NAACP and the Urban League where she could have had an opportunity to go speak. She's missed those conferences, those national conferences. She's really, the primary is in 2 weeks. All right. 2 weeks from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
So she's not going to be able to get out and make a difference on anybody's ticket in these primary races, even if she was endorsing some people. I mean, they've really stacked the deck. And I say
they're in a tight spot. They're certainly in a tight spot. I don't mean to cut you off, Keith, but we only have a couple minutes left. I want to try to rapid fire a couple last questions. We are talking to America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone. And as I mentioned, Susie Moore from Red State is my co-host today, and I know Susie has a question. So
I do. Keith, you threw out there a sharp male candidate as to run as her VP. Who do you see? Who do you think would be the best bet for Kamala?
Well, right now, the one that comes out, the one that comes to mind first would be Gavin Newsom, right? The governor of California. Now, that's who I would right now would pick without, vetting a whole lot of other people. I've heard Cory Booker. No, hell no, not going to hire two. They're not going to vote for 2 African Americans. They're just not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. But I think he has the most name recognition. He's the governor of one of the largest states in the United States. And from what people say, I think they have a good relationship because she's from California, right? And so I think that would be the one that I would say stands out the most to me at this late stage of the game.
So I have a list, and we'll actually do this in a little bit later on in the show, and Gavin Newsom's name is on it. I have a list here of the 10 most likely Democrats to be her vice president, and Gavin Newsom is indeed on that list. Keith, one last question here for you this afternoon. First of all, I will be very critical of Donald Trump if he does not debate Kamala Harris. That debate is almost, to me, it's necessary. There's a new.
You hear me now, my libertarian brother. You hear me now, and think about it later. He does it. What? It's not going to do him any good, and it's going to do her all good. I say he will not debate her. He will talk about her. He will do all and assassinate her character as he does any and everybody else. He'll come up with some names, crazy Taylor, Kama, Lama, Hama, Huma, Hama, right? He's going to have fun with this. He is not going to get up there and debate her. If I was his strategic manager and I was running his, I would say, hell no, I'm not getting ready to give you the light. I wouldn't do it. I see no advantages for Donald Trump to debate her. I would keep going. I'd go out. I'd get shot in the other ear first. Okay. I wouldn't debate her. It's just I don't see where it helps him.
You may be right. I am a big believer in debates should be mandatory at the presidential level, and I hope that we see, and I hope that people demand that, quite frankly, that we see that debate, and I hope that they demand more of America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone.
I don't see it. I don't see it, my brother. Well, but listen, that's why we can agree to disagree.
For sure. And we will continue to check in with you many times as we go through this even crazier now election year. Keith, thanks as always for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Keith.
We only have 30 seconds left. Do you think that they'll debate? Or do you agree with Keith?
I agree with Keith on that.
Really?
I don't think there's an upside for Trump to do
There may
it.
not be an upside, but I feel like it
Yeah,
should be.
it worked for him in the primaries.
They have the one scheduled in September, the
Yeah.
presidential. Yeah,
I
we'll
could see that not happening.
We are going to talk to our tech and AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine, next here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Vice President Harris praised President Biden in her first public appearance since he dropped out of the race. White House correspondent Greg Clungston reports.
At a White House celebration for NCAA championship teams, Harris paid tribute to the president.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history.
She said in one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who served 2 terms in office. Harris is gathering support and endorsements to be the Democratic presidential nominee following Biden's decision to end his campaign. Greg Clugston, the White House.
GOP Vice Presidential pick J.D. Vance with his first public appearance in Middletown, Ohio. Vance says he and former President Trump are ready to save America. Also at townhall.com, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle getting hammered on Capitol Hill during a House Oversight Committee hearing. Texas Congressman Pete Sessions tells Cheadle she has to provide some answers to questions about the recent assassination attempt on former President Trump.
Tell us what went wrong. A special agent in charge, the person who was there. Tell us, and don't try and play a shell game with us. Do you have the ability to effectively, as the director of this agency, to understand what went wrong and at least tell us, I do or don't know what I'm doing?
Cheadle was berated for hours by Republicans and Democrats, repeatedly angering lawmakers by evading questions about the investigation into the shooting. And the number of heat-related deaths in Texas is rising among residents who lost power during Hurricane Beryl. The toll of storm fatalities is now up to at least 23. More at townhall.com.
Anyone with everyday aches and pains, I've got a question. What are you missing out on? Probably a lot. So let me tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. It doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4RELIEF.
Hi, this is Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. We make the amazing Solaire infrared gas grills that are built to last and will consistently deliver better than restaurant grilled food. The Solaire infrared burner heats up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes, even in the dead of winter. The high heat locks in the juices and flavor and grills food faster. Learn more about these fantastic USA-made grills at BestHotGrill.com. Solaire, hot, fast.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A slight chance for a spot shower. Most will stay dry this evening and then mostly sunny in the morning. About 69 degrees will do it for the low. A high of 87, warm, a touch humid, light winds. But in the afternoon to early evening, another 15% chance for a spot shower, thunder shower. Most stay dry, but just a heads up, a low but persistent rain chance this week. Wednesday, another 15% chance, 89 for the high as it gets a little hotter and more humid for Wednesday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. With the average funeral bill being over $9,000, are your loved ones prepared? Call 314-866-8886 or memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Fox News commentary.
Joe Biden has dropped out of the 2024 presidential race, and I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013, 800-444-2013, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Biden officially dropped out of the race yesterday, issuing a written statement that read, as most of us predicted it would, that he is stepping down for the good of the party, blah, blah, blah. Well, the insurrection on Joe's candidacy was successful, and I hate to toot my own horn here, but toot toot. It wasn't that hard to figure out. The only two reasons he was the nominee for the Democrats in 2020 were, one, he was the only candidate on that Democrat primary stage that was moderate enough to get elected, and two, he was already cognitively out to lunch and easy to control. But now they've thrown him away like yesterday's trash. And though Joe endorsed Kamala Harris, I don't buy it. The Democrats can't win with Kamala Harris. And if I know Democrats, and believe me, I do, it's that they will win, and they will win at all costs. DEI be damned. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Lots of great conversation in the 2 o'clock hour. If you missed any of that, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Podcast still labeled as Colombo and Katie, but we put out this show as a podcast every day, right after we get off the air on every podcast platform. And we talked to Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. We also talked to America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone, in that first hour. Susie Moore from Red State is my co-host. And again, the best way to just make sure you never miss anything that happens here on the show is to, on whatever your favorite podcast platform is, make sure you are subscribed to Colombo and Katie still on the podcasts, but we'll get that changed over to Colombo and Company ASAP. All right, speaking of company, joining us on the line now, as he does every Monday afternoon, is our buddy Mike McCleary from Intervine. And Mike, I got all kinds of questions about, you're our AI expert, our tech expert. I've got lots of questions about how things like AI and social media could be used in today's political world, especially with all that we're talking about today. But I was thinking about this, and this is what I want to start with, and this is a real question, my friend. And hello, by the way.
Hello, guys.
Do you take any stock? Do you believe in the theory at all that we're all living in a simulation? Because after the last week, I think that maybe that is a distinct possibility. And I really am not. I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not. I mean, we've had people like Elon Musk have come out and said that he believes that there's a better chance than not that we're living in a simulation. What do you think about that theory in general?
Well, if you would have asked me this question a year ago, I would have laughed and wanted you to share whatever it was you were taking. But now that you are asking right now, if there ever was a time that we are seeing the possibility of creating something like this with AI, yeah, you could. You talk about NVIDIA, they've created a whole world, a whole planet, all running on this little computer, where it's down to the few meters of distance, everything you ever see in the world, modeling it out. They've kind of done that already. It could be done. And with the way things have gone the past couple of weeks, I got to tell you, whoever's controlling this thing is either mad or a mad genius, because you could not write this kind of script.
Yeah, it's a test. It's let's see what happens if we do this. And let's see what happens to the world if we do this. Susie, is it just ridiculous conspiracy madness to you, or what do you think when people talk about the idea of living in a simulation?
I think I'm with Mike on this.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Mike's take that, it's as crazy as it sounds. It sounds less crazy than it would have a few years ago.
And my worries are the same as they were last week when we talked to you, Mike, coming off the assassination attempt. My worries continue to be the same now with so much information being shared, so many questions being asked, so many people trying to get, the up to speed on what's happening. I feel like that flow of information more than ever is being controlled by not humans, by AI and by, just tech in general with social media. Is this a time where we should be especially sensitive and, be very careful with how we proceed going forward? Because I feel like, this is one of those times where if you wanted to do something dishonest, and you had the ability and you had the access to the right tech, this is a perfect example of a time where you could create some chaos.
I mean, absolutely. I was checking out a few of podcasts for the week, and Joe Rogan's one of them. Love him, hate him, whatever. The guy's entertaining to watch, but even he and his team are getting caught by these deep fakes or even small fakes. It's so easy right now to create a tweet, to create a picture, to create a video that is just portrays whatever you want it to be. And as soon as that happens, it starts getting propagated all over the media. And so you really have to be careful right now. I don't think we're there yet where it's that good. Like we were talking last week, you can still tell when something's generated by AI, whether it's video, especially audio, somewhat, whatever. So we're not quite there, but I would think within a year, it's almost going to be imperceivable, the difference between something completely AI generated. So I think we're okay right now, Tony. I really do. I think the biggest thing for me will be videos saying people said or did something that they didn't do. We're not quite there yet. And so I think we're okay for the rest of this calendar year, but in 2025, it is open game.
What, how do I want to ask this question? Well, you kind of answered it. How we're you think a year away from it being nearly indistinguishable, and then also what can we do? What can we do now? What rules would you put in place if you were king? What rules would you put in place on the continued development of AI to try to keep the evildoers from taking advantage of the technology?
Yeah, I think there's one rule I put in place is that there has to be a policy. And again, I don't know who controls this, but I think there has to be a policy that anything that is AI generated has to be flagged tagged and bagged as such. That
Mm-hmm.
you have to know whether it is. And if we can somehow put that in place, then I don't think it diminishes the effect. I don't mind watching things or listening to things that are AI generated if I know that. If they still entertain me, if they still provide information, whether it's news or videos, I think that's okay. But I do think we need something that everyone agrees on. You have to be able to tell that this is AI generated, because at least that's one safeguard I'd put in place, but I wouldn't put that into the government's hands. I'd make this, some kind of like a group of individual Joes like us and business people combined, and maybe throw in some politics at one, but make sure it has real people on there coming up with how this is actually implemented. That's the first thing I would do. After that, I think there has to be some openness, and you don't see this right now as to what is being programmed into this tech. And I think the reason we don't have that is a lot of these companies don't know, because AI is already, improving itself. It's going in there and rewriting its code to make it faster and faster. That's why we're seeing these big generational leaps in technology, because AI is being used right now to help improve AI. So we need some kind of openness to know how that's working.
So Susie and I, we were just talking about this at break, and it plays perfectly into this conversation. Susie, we were talking about how, even the biggest news organizations like NBC and Fox and CBS, there's such a rush to put stories out now. There's bad grammar and there's just typos all over the place. I feel like that is a perfect example of an area that AI could, make sure, be your new editor.
Right.
And instead of having to send it to an editor or somebody read through it, it can be literally edited on the spot. But then it also gets back to what Mike was just saying. There's no law in place right now that says if a news story is generated by AI or was partially, edited and maybe altered, tweaked or whatever by AI, right now that can be published with your name on it or whatever, and it doesn't have to be. How much is AI already starting to influence things like editing and putting out stories in the news? And two, do you think that there will be a law made specifically for the media about, hey, you can use AI to generate your news stories, but you have to identify it as such?
Well, it's being used in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, some outlets are using it in maybe somewhat deceptive ways, because they're actually using it to write their content and not acknowledging it. And then when they're getting busted on that, it's kind of an issue. In our world, what we use it in the sense is it's like Grammarly. Grammarly is a program that automatically checks things for you. And it's the thing is, it's not always right either. Sometimes you have to override what it's telling you. And thankfully you can. It's not like you're, locked into it. It's supposed to be used as an assistive tool. I think that's helpful. As far as laws being passed, I don't see it happening. And there's not a constituency that's going to push for that. Like, Congress is busy with 18,000 other things. And who's going to really push for transparency in media?
You know what it's going to take? It's going to take some big story that was published by AI that was wrong and had some negative impact on a group of people.
Right.
And then that organization is going to say, we're sorry, that was an AI story. We didn't do it. It was the computer that messed up. Unfortunately, it's going to take somebody being negatively impacted, I think, before anybody would lift a finger.
Oh, I agree.
In that area, although it should be something, Mike, I think that is put into place immediately. I like to keep people guessing on what the conversation is going to be. I started the conversation with, do you think we live in a simulation? And now I'm going to ask you about the new Pokemon Go terms of service, which was just updated. That's right. The day after the president said he's stepping out of the election, Tony's talking about Pokemon Go. You never know what you're going to get here. But the reason I bring this up, there's a very legitimate reason for this, Mike, because there's two big fears when we're talking about tech influence. One is AI and how much it can be used to fool people, and the other, of course, is the idea of data being stolen at a mass level by every app and phone and everything else that we carry with us on a daily basis. And so I play Pokemon Go every day with my son, and just recently had to accept their new terms of service. And that is why this is top of mind for me. And but it plays into this perfectly, because there's been backlash from the community of millions of people that play Pokemon Go, because in their new terms of service, they say that they are not only allowed to sell your data to third parties or whatever, without your permission. But if they think that you could be cheating the game, they now in their terms of service have permission to search the software inside your phone to see what software and what apps you have downloaded to see if you are possibly cheating in the game. And that type of, I don't think people I think people realize just how much these apps can see, but when you hear that and you see it written down, we're allowed to go in your phone and see what apps you have downloaded and what software you have on it and act upon whatever we learn if we so choose. Is that does that type of invasion surprise you, or is this just the world we live in?
I mean, it does not surprise me because if you read any terms of service, for one, you win a prize. Because who doesn't read all the terms of service?
Exactly. That's why they know they can get away with it. Right. Sure.
100%. 100%. And pretty much terms of service should be called CYA. That's why everything is in there to do that. So putting this in there doesn't surprise me. If there's something that I think that, would be really, what I like to do is this, and I've done this tons of times. Anytime I'm signing anything, or even for a new software that we're using for business purposes, I'll go in and I will download their terms of service and privacy policy. I'll pop it into ChatGPT and I'll have it tell me, what do I need to worry about? Now, you can just type those things and it would have pulled these things out right away. I actually did this right now while you were telling me about it because I had not heard about this. And you're right. This is pretty major. There's a lot of backlash. And
there's a lot of backlash. Yeah.
Yeah. This is something that I'd be concerned with because think about what else can do with that data. If they know what apps you have on your phone, they know your personality and they know exactly what they can do to market and advertise to you. And they're going to use that. Why would they not sell that then later on down the road? Because it's already been proven that AI is, I believe the term is 80% more effective at convincing someone to buy something rather than the normal person. That's how good these AI systems can be at convincing you to buy. If you give them that kind of information, heck, whoever has that wins the advertising and selling game.
And Susie, if Pokemon Go has it in their terms of service, I can't imagine how mass this
It's
is,
pervasive.
how regular
I'm
this
sure it
is. That
Yeah.
if we all started actually reading our terms of service,
Right.
that we are agreeing to not just the selling of our data, but permission to come into our phones and look at the software that we've downloaded and look at the apps that we've downloaded.
Right.
Does that scare you in any, do you think that people don't realize just how far it goes, or have people just accepted it and they're just fine with it because they want the convenience that comes along with everything in our cell phones?
It may be a combination of the two. I mean, the horse is largely out of the barn. I mean, when you've gotten used to being that reliant on technology and you recognize that you're giving up a lot of your privacy in the process and you kind of get used to it and numb to it. So I do think people kind of come to terms with it and go, well, unless I want to live completely off the grid, I guess that's just the price I'm paying for being part of this technological society.
Mike, we're almost out of time. I just was thinking as I'm looking at the TV screen and I'm seeing, highlights of the Biden of the Biden presidency and people, replaying certain moments.
There were any?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. What you said just a moment ago really hit home that there's a big question over the last 24 hours. Why hasn't Joe Biden come out and spoke to the country? Does he look really weak and feeble because of COVID and they don't want the president on TV in that condition? But you stepped out of the presidential race. You're president of the United States. You should be on a camera somewhere talking to the American people. And I don't know why it just hit me what you just said, that a year from now, they might be able to pull off putting the president out in front of people and giving that a quick speech, but it not be the president and get away with it if we're
close.
That close.
We're close. I saw a skit even just close to a year ago, them doing that on one of the America's Got Talent shows with Simon Cowell. They had it in real time, a guy's face being turned into him while he was singing in real time. And if that technology was like a year ago, being able to do it in real time, then yeah, we're close. Within a year, something like that could happen. It'd be pretty crazy time, once that possibility is out there.
That is Mike McCleary from Intervine. Of course, Intervine, great local family-owned business that makes the best flashlights, headlamps, and lanterns available on the market. Mike, remind folks about everything that you have going on at Intervine and about all your great products.
Yeah, if you need any kind of flashlight, headlamp, or lantern, go to intervine.com. Use TONY, Tony, to save 25%.
Yeah.
And we're going to start a business next. It's going to be called the TOS Sleuth. All three of us here on this call, and it's going to look at LTOS and tell you what you really need to be worried about. I think that's a new business.
There you go.
Start.
I think people would love that service. And people, you know what? If you were worried about AI and all these negative things, it's a perfect reminder to do what Mike just did. Use AI for your own benefit. If you don't want to read the terms of service, let the AI do it and tell you what you need to be worried about and flip the script on all those concerns. Mike, thank you as always so much for your time this afternoon. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, guys. See you next Monday.
Yeah, great stuff.
Thanks,
there
Mike.
from Mike McCleary. Again, intervine.com. Use my name, Tony, TONY, as your promo code, and you get 25% off everything. Use it as much as you want for as much as you want. All the great flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and batteries in every size. If you just want to stock up on batteries for 25% off, go to intervine.com and use my name, Tony, as your promo code. INTERVINE, intervine.com. All right, there is some other news happening in the world today. There is a very important hearing happening regarding the Secret Service and the Secret Service director and all of the fallout from what happened last week with the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. We'll get you a full update on that. And also, I will read you this list that is starting to circulate in the media. Veep Stakes is back, baby, in a big way. 10 Democrats that are the most likely to be Kamala Harris's running mate. So we'll run those names by you and get everyone's reaction to that. Susie Moore from Red State is my co-host, and you're listening to Colombo Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
News Talk STL.
So back-to-back companies here that I just absolutely love to promote and tell you guys about, and I think that are the exact type of businesses that you want to support. We just talked about Intervine, local family-owned business that provides the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available. And now also A+ Plumbing and Drain. Again, local family-owned business built from the ground up. Jeremiah Burpo has built that company from word of mouth when it was just him at the very beginning. He's been the Colombo family plumber since before there was an A+ Plumbing and Drain. So I have literally watched this company grow from scratch, and it grew simply from over delivering and just doing the best work at the best price for your customers as possible. And that, along with it being a local family-owned business, I think is the best type of business you could possibly support. A+ Plumbing and Drain has you covered across the board when it comes to your plumbing needs. They specialize in new construction and home renovation. So if you have a big project, they are definitely the ones to call. But everything all the way down to a simple need like replacing a sink faucet. A+ Plumbing and Drain does it all. Call A+ for your next plumbing need or project at 636-288-7126, or learn more and contact them through their Facebook page, A+ Plumbing and Drain on Facebook.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer. I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
So Biden is out after insisting just last week, in his words, cut all the crap about me getting out of the race. And don't forget how he criticized the elites in his party trying to shove him aside. Pelosi publicly defended Biden, saying it's his choice, but behind closed doors, basically saying, Joe, it's your choice, but it will be our decision. California Congressman Schiff publicly calling for Biden to get off the ticket. Now, I'd previously suggested I didn't expect that September debate between Biden and Trump would ever happen. Now we know it won't. But the new question is, will Harris debate Trump? Can she afford not to debate him? That is assuming she doesn't get tossed overboard. If she can survive, who would be her VP? You can throw all the names you hear into a hat and blindly draw one, which is pretty much what Democrats will be doing. Yet they will insist this is the best candidate for VP, when they were also insisting Biden was best. You think Gavin Newsom and other power-hungry Democrats are going to go along simply to get along? No, the Democrat convention in August now could be an all-out cage match.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
If you haven't been to Lit Cigar Lounge in the district at Chesterfield, you're missing a great experience. Premium cigars, drinks, spacious seating, TVs in every direction. This and more explain why Lit was voted Best Cigar Lounge 2 years in a row. Now you can be at Lit and order Napoli Brothers pizza and pasta delivered to you. In fact, Napoli's just a few doors down. A coal-fired oven giving a unique taste. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the Chesterfield district.
Hey, Colombo here for the great team at All Solutions Pest Control. We've been using pest control services at our home for years, and the results we've had with All Solutions are second to none. So if you're experiencing a pest problem, or more importantly, want to prevent a problem, All Solutions Pest Control are the ones to call. Right now, you can take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer. Learn more and contact them now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99, and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number:
800-407-9204. 800-407-9204. 800-407-9204. That's 800-407-9204.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
The investigations are ramping up. What was the Secret Service failing to do to protect Donald Trump?
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
I work all night, I work all day to pay the bills I have to pay. Hey, need said.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Big thank you to Susie Moore from Red State for being here with me today. Susie will be my co-host again tomorrow. Also, big thank you to producer Emily and producer Ethan for all of their help today. And basically every day here on the show. Couldn't do it without you. Let's do Secret Service first.
Sure.
Susie, there are other stories out there. I mean, had to get to the Pokemon Go stuff. Also, there's a big hearing in making big news. The Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, is in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers from both parties have called on her to resign in recent days. And there's been some fireworks up on Capitol Hill today. You've been watching it.
I did.
Can you give us an update?
Yeah, I watched pretty much the whole thing. Right at the very end, I missed maybe the last 2 questioners. So I saw pretty much all of it. And this is the most bipartisan hearing I've ever seen come out of this oversight committee. Normally what happens is, the Republicans have got an agenda and they've got 3 witnesses there and the Democrats have 1 witness there, and then they end up yelling at each other and throwing food at each other, and it's like a big, food fight. Today, almost to a person, every single questioner, Democrat, Republican, was like, "What are you thinking? What went wrong? Why haven't you resigned? You're a horrible person." I mean, that was it in a nutshell. There were there were definitely some good clips that you'll see come out of it.
The Nancy Mace stuff is probably
Nancy
the most.
Mace is,
So real quick, for if people are, she had some sort of bombshell aggressive questioning. She dropped a couple of S-bombs.
She did. Yeah.
Called an answer BS to her face.
Right.
And so really that's kind of one of the headline moments from today.
Yes, but that was actually well into the hearing. I will say this for Kim Cheadle, she maintained her composure throughout. She was calm, but she deflected and declined to answer pretty much 90% of what was asked of her, and whether it was Democrat or Republican. The spin agenda that they were trying to throw into this was gun control, but she didn't even bite with that. So, she wasn't playing politics, but she was playing protect the institution. And to the point where the reps were getting visibly angry with her, and they're like, "This is our job." I agreed with AOC today. That never happens. But she said, "Look, this is our job. We literally have to make decisions based on what we find out here, and you're not giving us any information to work with." It's 9 days after the incident. There's been no press conference. There have been no updates from her, from DOJ, from Mayorkas, anything other than to deny some of the rumors that are out there. This was the best. She was asked by Ro Khanna, who's a Democrat congressman from California. He was likening it back to, he said, "Has there been an incident like this, as serious as this, since Reagan was shot in 81? And she said, "No." So 43 years hasn't been an incident like this. And he said, what happened was Stuart Knight, who was the head of the director of the Secret Service after that. And she said, "Yeah, he remained on." And he said, "No, he resigned." And she didn't even know. I mean, it was so stunning. But after the hearing was over, James Comer, who's the chair, and then Jamie Raskin, who's the ranking member, Democrat or Republican Democrat, jointly called on her to resign. Everybody there asked her to resign today.
So is she going to, do you think?
I can't imagine how she
not,
doesn't.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I've had bad days at work. This woman literally was told she was a horrible human being who was horrible at her job and had no excuse for being there. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah,
and it was really bad.
You pointed out at the beginning, and it really cannot be overstated just how divided and partisan all of these hearings have been for the last few years. So for the idea that people on both sides of the aisle would be on the same page, asking the same questions, making the same accusations, because it's not hyperbole to say that typically if it's a Democratic, the person being on trial is somebody that represents some a Democrat issue. Every Democrat, the question is going to be, why are you so great? Why do you work so hard? Why do you sacrifice to do these great things? And how hard is it to be perfect?
Right.
I mean, it is that level. And then the Republicans' questions are, why are you the devil? Why do you hate puppies? And why do you?
Yeah.
I mean, it is just so nasty.
That was not today.
And for them to be on the same page is monumental.
This
in
is
this
the
age.
group with the eyelashes and the "oh baby girl" stuff. This is that group. No, they were on the same page today.
Yeah. So what's your gut feeling? Does this happen soon? Does she step down soon?
I can't imagine she wouldn't turn her resignation in today if she's got.
Well, I can't imagine she didn't give it in already.
Well, Yeah, I mean, but if she had any illusion as that she would be supported in any way now, what really should have happened is that Joe Biden should have fired her.
Yeah.
He should have fired her, like, last week.
He's
And I
still
know he's been otherwise occupied,
he's
but
still in bed.
I know. But this is ridiculous.
He's sleeping.
And, I mean, the bottom line is she's the director. The buck is supposed to stop
Yeah.
with her. There were massive failures. She acknowledged there were colossal failures.
When
failures
it was our own Senator Josh Hawley last week, when that whistleblower report came out of Josh Hawley's office about how most of the security detail weren't even Secret Service.
Mhm.
They were Homeland Security.
Yeah, they're
agents.
investigations, yeah.
Yeah. And because I had been asking, Donald Trump does these big outdoor rallies all the time. He's traveling with the same, when you get assigned to something like that, it's for a long period of time. You'd think that the Secret Service detail would be his detail would be used to these big events. Why did this happen? And we now know the reason is because a lot of those agents weren't with him.
That's part of it, but a bigger part of it is just the overall oversight and the planning.
Yeah.
I mean, and on top of that, she acknowledged that she's been communicating with her co-employees, coworkers via encrypted apps on her personal device, which is like an absolute no-no for a government employee.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that story and how it unfolds, but I think you're right. I don't think Kimberly Cheadle makes it very much longer in that position.
No.
We'll probably get into these details tomorrow and throughout the week. But while we have a few minutes left here, Veep Stakes back again, baby. Now on the Democratic side, a report out today from Fox News' Paul Steinhauser. Here are the 10 top Democrats in alphabetical order whose names have been floated in the last 24 hours as potential Kamala Harris running mates. So I'm going to run through them real quick, and then you can tell me if any of them stand out to you. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, the astronaut, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, which would be historic and interesting because that would be an all-black ticket. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, despite the fact that Whitmer did come out today and made a statement that she would not accept vice president if offered. She says that she is not leaving the state of Michigan, that she's, which again, Joe Biden said he wasn't dropping out of the race, 2 days ago. So maybe, exactly. Take it with a grain of salt, but that report was made today. What do you think of that list? And does any of them stand out to you as the most probable?
Yeah, I have to disagree with what Keith Antone said earlier, and that is Gavin Newsom, because both he and Kamala are from California. So then they have the same issue that Donald Trump was going to have with Rubio. You've got the same state. And so they would have to figure out, like, she'd have to change her residence, which maybe she could. She's been in D.C. all these years. Maybe that would be what they would do. But I don't know if that's as likely. J.B. Pritzker doesn't necessarily gain her that much because he's Illinois, and Illinois is already a solid blue state. I think she benefits from somebody in the Rust Belt. So it could be Josh Shapiro, Andy Beshear. I was thinking Gretchen Whitmer. The other person whose name isn't on that list is Tammy Baldwin, who's the senator from Wisconsin. There's a PAC out there that's like the Harris Baldwin PAC that was on the FEC filing. I don't know what that's about. I haven't been able to dig into that.
That's interesting.
But so that would be an all-woman ticket. And Wes Moore, I think, is a strong candidate. I don't know if they'll be brave enough to say, can we throw out a completely all African American ticket and expect that that's going to work? I mean, it shouldn't matter.
Right. It shouldn't matter.
But she also doesn't need Maryland.
But when you're a party that is driven by identity politics,
right?
For the right or wrong reasons, I could definitely see that happening. And when I see names like Pete Buttigieg and Gavin Newsom, and especially J.B. Pritzker, as many of our Illinois listeners know, it just never ceases to amaze me how much you can fail in the Democratic Party and continue to rise. Pete Buttigieg couldn't win an election in South Bend, Indiana anymore, and he's being considered for vice president. J.B. Pritzker is wildly unpopular with Republicans. He will win always because of Chicago, but not a great reputation throughout most of his state, and yet continues to advance. Susie Moore from Red State, thank you so much for all your help today.
Bet.
Susie will be back with me tomorrow at 2 p.m. See you then. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
On August 6th, your vote will shape our community's future. Introducing Representatives John Simmons and Kyle Marquardt, two candidates with starkly different records. John Simmons, a staunch conservative, has consistently cut taxes and defended parents' rights for education choice. He believes in limited government and safeguarding our privacy. Simmons even championed legislation to secure our elections, ensuring integrity at every step. In contrast, Kyle Marquardt voted to expand welfare and increase government spending, and also supported invasive, warrantless government drone searches. When it comes to protecting your rights and hard-earned money, the choice is clear. John Simmons is not just making promises, he's delivered real results.